we call them five, the canonical five murders that are similar, but there was up to about 11 unfortunates that were murdered. And but these five, I'll just stick with those just because it's kind of easy because those have very similar MO. So it starts with this Polly Nichols that happened in August 31st, 1888. Well, what happened was this killer, when he did it, the amazing thing was is when, well, first of all, he would cut the woman's throat to the spine, and then what happened was, in most cases, he would eviscerate, and he would take some organs from them. But people earshot to the murder site heard nothing, saw nothing, and all they heard was just silence. And that was the stunning thing was when, like Polly Nichols' murder, they, Mrs. Green, this watchman across the street, they heard nothing and they were awake. And they're interviewing anyone, they saw this Polly Nichols with no one an hour before, 2 hours before. So then what happened was Andy Chapman was the next victim, and same thing that people in the area heard nothing, saw nothing. Elizabeth Stride, when she was murdered, same thing. We had a lady that was outdoors, right here, looking at the street, and the murder was right over there. She heard nothing. The first thing she heard was the police officer's boots coming up. And then Catherine Eddowes, which was murdered not in the Scotland Yard jurisdiction, but in the city of London, same thing, where it was Mitre Square that the P.C. Watkins, who had the beat, went into Mitre Square at 1:30, and then he came back at 1:44, and she was mutilated, organs fried, the uterus was taken, and the kidney was taken. And it was like no sound. And so if you think about those four, every single one, when there were people that were earshot, next heard nothing, saw nothing. Just kind of in the words of Ian Fleming, James Bond, with Goldfinger. Remember Goldfinger said, once is happenstance, twice is coincidence, but 3 times is enemy action. And that's why he saw James Bond for the 3rd time, so it was that. This was 4 times identical silence. That right there is the MO of this stealthy killer, invisibility. And so why people haven't heard much about that particular spot is because some of the top suspects since, let's say, the 1980s, that can't be, because Catherine Eddowes, what happened was is on Duke Street, there was a bar, and these 3 Jewish men that were walking home walked by this man and this unfortunate, they were clearly an unfortunate, right next to this alleyway called Church Street that went into Mitre Square. Within about 5 or 10 minutes before the murders, they saw him and they walked by. So now that person, the eyewitness was a guy named Lavendi, said that right there was, he didn't get a good look at it, but 2 years later they used him to say that he saw Jack the Ripper. Well, the issue I have with that is, one is that Duke Street, the beat was by a guy named P.C. Harvey, Police Constable Harvey. And he went by 5 minutes after those people did and saw no one there. You go down Church Passage into Mitre Square, well, where the murder was, there's Mitre Street on the other side, and a police officer saw a woman that he thought was Catherine Eddowes before walking Aldgate Street there. And the PC that had that beat was PC Watkins. He went from Aldgate Street to Mitre Street, into Mitre Square and back out every 15 minutes. So here's Jack the Ripper, who purposely did not want anyone to see him before, during, or after. In the beat, knew the beat, also the unfortunates knew the beat. Would you go from P.C. Harvey's beat and say, hey, let's go over there, have no idea where that police officer is in his beat, and start murdering? Or, which a police officer saw, they were convinced that she and the killer was at Aldgate Street. P.C. Harvey saw him walk into Mitre Square, walk out. They went in there. They know they had 15 minutes because those beats were 15 minutes. 5 minutes. So 1:30, P.C. Harvey went into that Mitre Square. I'm sorry, P.C. Watkins went into that Mitre Square, and then saw nothing. And then 1:44, when he came back, she was completely mutilated. Well, at the same time, P.C. Harvey on this beat did go into Church Street to look into Mitre Square, but never went. If you were the killer, and you went in there with Catherine Eddowes at 1:30, just after P.C. Watkins left, and you murdered her, you would have seen P.C. Harvey walking right towards you because there was a street lamp right there. So that was 1:40, that's what P.C. Harvey said, and then he vanished. 1:44 is when P.C. Watkins came in and the body was mutilated. So you can see that. To me, Jack the Ripper and the unfortunate was waiting for P.C. Watkins on Aldgate Street. Recently, there was some so-called DNA proof, DNA genealogy, that they identified the killer. It was a shawl. Apparently, what happened was P.C. Amos Simpson was the first on the scene at Mitre Square, saw the body, Catherine Eddowes, murdered, so he pocketed that shawl because he knew it was going to be a famous murder. And he kept that shawl and kept it in the family. So, in the family of the great-grandnephew, had that in the 1980s, coincidentally 1988, which is a 100-year anniversary of the Whitechapel murders, kind of publicly talked about this shawl and been in the family that was on the body of Catherine Eddowes. And so he sold that to this Russell Edwards. There was a couple, they tried to do DNA tests and they could find nothing on there. So they sold it to this Russell Edwards, who bought it for about 6,000 pounds. And he claimed that he had this Dr. Llewellyn do DNA testing. So what he said is, okay, Llewellyn claimed to have found a blood stain on this shawl and a semen stain. So what he did was he figured out, he matched it up with a descendant of Catherine Eddowes, mitochondrial DNA, so mothers, and then also a descendant of this Kosminski, and those markers match what's on the shawl. Therefore, here it is, one of the top suspects, Kosminski, here's Catherine Eddowes, descendant matches, therefore that was Jack the Ripper. It's BS. What happened was Dr. Llewellyn made a mistake in nomenclature. That mitochondrial marker, which would be matched up with the blood stain, I'm sorry, the blood stain of Catherine Eddowes was 3.14 C. So that means that only a small percentage of people would have that, but of course the descendant of Catherine Eddowes had that. But it was actually 3.15 C, which 99% of the European population has it. So it is not a match. And on the other side, it is not a match either. And what's funny is because they published this in a peer-reviewed Journal of Forensic Science, and they hit the data. Now, peer-reviewed journal, the purpose of peer review is for peer experts to look at the research, the data, and to kind of analyze it themselves. They hid the data from the other scientists. So the scientists said to the journal, why did you put this in here when it doesn't fit? We actually rejected this. Somehow this rich businessman got that article in there. So then they asked Dr. Llewellyn, okay, no problem, just put the data in there. He lost the data. So we already debunked this in the second edition of Russell Edwards' book, which was like 4 years ago. And if you go online, go on my website, I actually did a lecture to talk about this. I got into detail there. His new book, or his third edition, just came out, and surprise, surprise, it's back in the news. So, but there's nothing new in the data. It's not a match. So, and the other problem with that shawl, Amos Simpson that was Catherine Eddowes. She was not murdered in the jurisdiction of Scotland Yard. She was murdered in the city of London. There would be no reason why a police constable from Scotland Yard should be at that murder site. As a matter of fact, his station was 14 miles to the north. That's where he was stationed. So then they were claiming, okay, we told them that years ago. So, oh no, he was on special duty with the city of London. That's why he was there. Well, the problem is they publicize in the archives all special duties. Nowhere on that date is he there. He was still in, you know, his own place. So there was no reason to be there. Also, think about it. Here's P.C. Watkins went into Manor Square at 1:30, nothing. It was completely dark. Came back at 1:44 and saw the body. It was P.C. Watkins was the first on the scene. And then there were hundreds of people around there, right there when he sounded the alarm. So when did he pocket that shawl? Then the problem is when that body was there, they did an itemized list of the body before they moved the body, and there is no shawl on that list. So Russell Edwards says, no, what they did is they mistaken her skirt for the shawl. So it was a reporter that did that. It wasn't Scotland Yard, but it was actually not Scotland Yard, but the City of Police, City of London Police that did that itemized list. And so it just doesn't match. And the last thing is that shawl that they have, there is no blood stain, there is no semen stain. He's assuming there's a blood stain and semen stain. Dr. Lowland said, I'm assuming that's a blood stain, I'm assuming that's a semen stain because Russell Edwards told me that shawl was on the dead body. That's why he assumed those things were. That's it. But what the problem is that shawl was never near that body. And then, here it is. Catherine Eddowes, a few hours before, she and her boyfriend went hop picking, couldn't get any money, so she sold her boyfriend's shoes to get some drink. Don't know if the boyfriend knew that, but then she was passed out, of course, but if she had this expensive silk shawl, do you think she would have gotten rid of that first? And then the problem is, the blue dye is water soluble on that shawl. Water soluble. If it rained, it would have streaked. So what I have is, if you go in to look at the reports, it was a heavy rain that evening during the murder. So I have, over here I have pictures of the shawl. There is absolutely zero streaks on it whatsoever. So anybody still convinced that shawl would be it? So that right there, that was something that I wanted to kind of pass on.